So let's talk about a report that just landed with the force of a diplomatic anvil. On September 18, 2025, a United Nations Commission dropped a bombshell finding. Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. This isn't just another strongly worded letter or a resolution that gets politely ignored. This is the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry, stating in no uncertain terms that a genocide has occurred. This conclusion marks a monumental moment for international law and accountability. It represents one of the most authoritative UN findings to date. It moves the conversation from debate to a formal accusation on the world stage, and it puts immense pressure on global institutions to act. The significance is hard to overstate. For decades, activists used the term genocide to describe Israel's actions, but it was often dismissed as hyperbole. Now, a UN-backed inquiry has validated that claim. The commission didn't just find bad things were happening, it concluded the state of Israel bears responsibility for committing genocide, for failing to prevent it, for failing to punish those who incited it. This elevates the issue beyond conflict or humanitarian crisis. It frames events in Gaza as a deliberate effort to destroy a group, the gravest crime under international law. Alright, let's get into the weeds a bit. Genocide is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it has a very specific legal meaning. It's not just a synonym for a lot of people died. The definition comes from the 1948 Genocide Convention, written in the shadow of the Holocaust. It defines genocide as committing certain acts with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, religious group. The key here is intent. You have to prove the goal wasn't just to win a war but to eliminate a people. The UN Commission found Israel has committed 4 of the 5 acts listed in the convention. That's like failing 4 out of 5 subjects. It's not a good look. The first act the commission identified is killing members of the group. The Palestinian Health Ministry has reported a death toll approaching 65,000 people. The report documents relentless bombing campaigns in densely populated civilian areas. The majority of those killed were women and children. The second act is causing serious bodily or mental harm. This goes beyond the immediate casualties: maimed, burned, permanently disabled. It also includes the profound psychological trauma inflicted on an entire population: constant bombardment, loss of family members, destruction of homes. The UN report highlights widespread severe mental harm, particularly among children. It's about breaking a people's spirit as much as their bodies. Now, for a crime as serious as genocide, you can't just point to the actions of soldiers on the ground. You have to look at who is giving the orders and who is creating the climate for these atrocities to happen. That's exactly what the UN Commission did. The report doesn't blame an abstract state, it points fingers at the highest levels of Israeli leadership. Specifically, it names Isaac Herzog, Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant. This is a stunning accusation. The evidence comes from their own mouths. The report documents repeated statements that dehumanize Palestinians and framed Gaza's population as a legitimate target. Navi Pillay said responsibility lies with Israeli authorities at the highest echelons. The commission cites statements calling Palestinians human animals and calls for a complete siege. No electricity, no food, no fuel. Erasing someone's humanity gives soldiers a green light to commit atrocities. That rhetoric helps establish the intent to destroy required for a genocide conviction. High civilian death tolls are one thing. Leaders on record calling for collective punishment is another. The commission found Israeli authorities failed to punish this incitement. They amplified it instead. Unsurprisingly, Israel's response to the report was not exactly a thoughtful mea culpa. It was more like, well, a diplomatic table flip. The Israeli government immediately and categorically rejected the findings, dismissing them as distorted, false, biased. In a statement, the country's foreign ministry didn't just disagree with the conclusion, it called for the immediate abolition of the Commission of Inquiry itself. This is a classic move. When you don't like the message, you attack the messenger. Israel's defense strategy seems to be to discredit the entire process, rather than engage with the substance of the accusations laid out in the detailed report. The core of Israel's counter-argument is that its military operation in Gaza is a legitimate act of self-defense, conducted in accordance with international law. Officials maintain that their goal is to dismantle Hamas, not to harm Palestinian civilians, and that any civilian casualties are the unfortunate but unavoidable consequence of Hamas operating within populated areas. They essentially argue that the tragic outcomes are Hamas's fault. Furthermore, the Israeli government accused the UN Commission of being a mouthpiece for its enemies, claiming the report relies entirely on Hamas falsehoods and that its authors are acting as proxies for the militant group. This accusation of bias is a long-standing Israeli criticism of many UN bodies, particularly those related to human rights in the Palestinian territories. The Israeli government often portrays these commissions as having a built-in anti-Israel agenda, rendering their findings invalid from the start. The Foreign Ministry statement went so far as to highlight past anti-Semitic statements allegedly made by commission members to paint them as motivated by prejudice rather than a commitment to international law. By framing the inquiry as a kangaroo court, Israel seeks to delegitimize the genocide verdict in the eyes of the international community. However, this blanket denial does little to address the specific evidence presented in the UN report. The world has the report and it has Israel's denial. Now it must decide which is more credible. So the UN has spoken and Israel has responded with a furious denial. What now? This report isn't just an academic paper destined to gather dust on a shelf, it's a call to action. And the Commission was very clear about what it expects from the rest of the world. The primary recommendation is for all countries to take immediate and concrete steps. This includes halting all transfers of weapons and security assistance to Israel, as well as re-evaluating trade relationships to ensure they are not contributing to the genocide. Essentially, the UN is telling the world, you can no longer claim you didn't know. Now that you do, continuing to arm or fund these actions makes you complicit. The Commission's chair, Navi Pillay, put it in stark terms. The international community cannot stay silent on the genocidal campaign launched by Israel against the Palestinian people in Gaza, she declared. Her statement carries a powerful warning. Inaction is not a neutral position. When clear signs and evidence of genocide emerge, the absence of action to stop it amounts to complicity. This puts countries, especially powerful Western allies of Israel, in an incredibly difficult position. They can either heed the UN's call and risk a major diplomatic fallout with a key partner, or they can ignore it and be accused of being accessories to the gravest crime in international law. Beyond actions by individual states, the report will undoubtedly fuel ongoing legal proceedings at venues like the International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court. This UN finding can be submitted as powerful evidence in cases that are already examining Israel's conduct. It provides a legal and factual foundation for prosecutors and judges to build upon, making it more likely that formal charges or binding judgments could be issued against the Israeli state or its leaders. This report significantly raises the stakes, transforming what were once political accusations into credible legal threats. There is now potential for arrest warrants and sanctions. Ultimately, this moment serves as a profound test for the entire system of international law that was established after World War II. The system was created precisely to prevent and punish crimes like genocide. The path forward is uncertain, but one thing is clear. After this report, the world can no longer plead ignorance. Silence is a choice, and as the Commission warns, it is a choice that amounts to complicity.